Hi, Marcello.
Hello, Hian.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, what do you think of the crowd here? Who's heard of driverless cars? Right? Everyone. Let me ask you a more interesting question, why I'm very excited to follow them. Who actually is involved in driverless car tech? Who actually either is part of the ecosystem or actually does something, actually knows something about it? See, I've got like 2 hands, right? So the interesting thing for me is I feel like driverless cars is one thing that everyone has heard about. It's like American Idol, right? We all watch it, but none of us really know how to sing that well. And the whole category is filled with promises and dreams and, oh my gosh, this thing's gonna change the world. And then when you dig deeper, I don't know anybody meaningfully to actually explain this to me. So I am very excited to have a Marcello, who you know something very meaningful about this business. So the first question I'm gonna ask Marcello is, tell us, what is your day job? What do you do in this whole driverless car arms race?
Okay. I work in robotics. I'm teaching in the National University of Singapore. I'm with the Advanced Robotics Center. Robotics are computers, IT, plus physical machines, and where the computers serve as the brain to make them work together to create high-value, meaningful products to improve the quality of our lives. Yeah? If you look at the impact of IT, that's great. We cannot live without computers. Couple that with physical muscles and brain and actuators, physical things moving around, then the impact will be much more.
So when did you get involved in driverless cars?
6 years ago, among all the robotics, a robotic car is the most interesting because it affects everybody.
So you were thinking about driverless cars 6 years ago?
6 years ago, yeah. Can we provide mobility to people from all walks of life, from all ages, very young? You have too much to drink,
okay.
You want to go home, you're too old to drive, you want to give people mobility and independence.
So it was a clear idea.
Very clear.
The use case was there.
Yes.
And then you told everybody, and what did they think? You were nuts?
No, not really. There's things I am dreaming too much.
Where were you exactly at 6 years? Were you in a research institute? Were you with A-Star?
I have been with NUS since 1989.
Okay.
So I've been working in robotics for a long time. But 6 years ago, can we put robotics to a robot car to make them drive, to have an impact in a wide variety?
So you had a robot car?
Yes.
Okay. So then
wanted to build a robot car, which is a driverless car.
So where's your robot car now? Because this is an arms race, right? Everybody in the world wants to build the nuclear bomb, right?
That's right.
So how's your nuclear bomb coming along?
It's not a nuclear bomb. It's the nuclear equivalent solution, the good part.
I call it a nuclear bomb because the guy who has the nuclear bomb wins. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it kills everybody.
He who has, isn't that true? He who has the driverless car wins, right? It's like the nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Where's your nuclear bomb?
It's in the lab right now. We have 1 car, 4 buggies, 1 personal mobility scooter, and 1 autonomous wheelchair. They're all autonomous.
Okay.
Right? The car is called Scott, Shared Computer Operated Transport, named after my student called Scott too. It's allowed to drive in 1 north, public road, open, no need to barricade the road. It's real life traffic conditions. The rest of the cars, the buggies, is a pedestrian environment.
Okay, so you have Newtonomy that we've heard in the press who's also doing that?
That's right. It came from our group. Yeah.
It came from your group? Okay.
That's right.
So let me ask a very technical question. When you think about trying to solve the driverless car, what are the pieces that you need to get to work?
Yeah. Okay, one is driving in the presence of other human drivers and pedestrians. Right? It's very important to be able to predict how they're going to move, right? And you know, machines working with humans is very challenging.
So that's the artificial intelligence decision-making engine. Okay, so we put that aside. Okay. Yeah. What about the sensing, and what about all that data collection, and everyone knows what the LiDAR is, right? It's that thing that flies around at the top?
Yeah.
Is that solved? Is that commoditized?
Well, it's available. We have the sensors already, but sensing just give sensing, right?
Yeah.
Does it give meaning to the information?
So that's solved, right? You can put that thing on.
Not 100%.
Not 100%. So what is missing?
What's missing is providing semantics, meaning to the sensors data, to the information.
What do you mean by providing semantics? I don't understand.
Giving information, right? For example, that looks like a car. That means it can move very fast.
Okay, so that's
that
image
looks like
recognition.
A purpose. that looks like a pedestrian,
Yeah.
then it can walk.
So the data collection is pretty accurate.
Yeah, okay.
You can get the whole thing.
But-
But then we got a whole bunch of data. So then somebody's got to do the image recognition. This is Marcello.
Yeah,
this
this
is a
is-
venture capitalist. Let's run him down.
That's right.
Okay.
No. Yeah, and this is a aggressive driver.
Okay.
This is a pedestrian that's walking slowly.
This is a hesitant pedestrian.
Hesitant pedestrian, and to create information.
That's
out of the
ridiculously hard.
session. Yes.
That's
because
ridiculously hard.
That's why it's hard, because we know how to do it, but we don't know how we do it.
Ooh, say that again.
We know we can do it because we're doing it,
Okay.
but we don't know how to do it. Next time you meet me again, you want to describe to somebody how I look like, you see me. You can say, look for somebody with eyes, with nose. No,
Okay.
right? That's why there's a lot of interest in machine learning, in how we can use, like how the human brain learns.
So for the sake of the audience and myself,
Yeah.
is it fair to say that the way to think about driverless cars is the sensors, figuring out the images and interpreting whether it's a human being or a car or cardboard cut out of a human being,
That's right.
and then the brain that actually has to decide turn left, turn right, stop, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And relate. Those are the two key things. The third one we take for granted is the car must know where it is all the time. Localization.
That's true.
Yeah. And right now I want to operate the car indoors too, inside
Oh,
the
that's
port
true.
terminal
Yes.
building. There's no GPS. Our
Yeah.
cars do not use GPS.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's another important.
Does the Uber car use GPS?
Yes. Everybody else uses GPS.
Everybody else. How you know? You talk to the Uber
Yes.
guys? Okay.
My student working in Uber now.
Oh, ooh, you see. So my trick is to try and get this guy to say things that he wouldn't normally say
Yeah, that's
in
right.
front of all you guys, right?
Yeah.
So you guys got. It
Former
sounds
student.
like it sounds like a small community of folks around the world
That's
who
right.
all know each other. So all the other nuclear scientists.
Yeah. We're all working together in a way.
So it's actually all working together. Okay.
We know we are working the same problems. We tell them what the best we do. They tell us the best they have done, including people from Google, everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
And then through conferences, then we exchange best practices.
Okay. So I'm going to shift it a bit because it feels like I actually kind of know how to think about this problem. Let me ask you the next question. So who's the guy who's going to win? Is it going to be Google? Is it going to be Uber? Or is it going to be you and the autonomy guys in Singapore?
Well, it's hard to say, but I'm confident to say Singapore will be one of the first, if not the first country, to
Wow.
have this in mass deployment. Not because
Wow.
of technology, because of government push and because of the culture. It's quite interesting. We have many things that happen in Singapore that won't happen in the world. For example, electronic road pricing, 24 hours, 7 days a week, tracking of the vehicle for
Yes.
ERP2,
Yes.
electronic road pricing 2, bidding for car ownership.
Yes.
That will never happen.
But this has got nothing to do with driverless cars. I mean, these are innovative things that we've done in the transport
That's
to get
right.
more money
More
and
money
to get
and-
more money from me. And,
Well, not really to get more money, to improve the quality of
Okay.
life. So
So-
that we don't have traffic congestion.
so, but then that implies that all driverless car teams should be based in Singapore because we're so conducive, right?
That's right. Correct.
Okay, well, I'll leave it
exactly.
as
And
that.
Singapore will be the first country, and then from there it will spread. Yeah. All major cities will be like Singapore, same problems.
Let me ask you another question. So we had, the first time I heard about like the promise of a driverless car was from Google.
Right.
And yet we don't see Google at it anymore, or rather they've got a bit quiet. I
Well,
mean, like Uber seems to be the thing that we're all talking about now.
they're not really quiet. They're quietly working very hard.
Okay, so you just don't want to tell us
Yeah, that's right.
what's going on.
And
Okay,
they're working on very interesting on GPS-less technology too. They're trying to do that too. Working in urban environments also, not highway driving, similar to what we're doing.
Okay.
Our driverless car, we meant it really shorter distances
Okay.
centered around a train
Okay.
station.
I'm going to ask a
Yes.
show of hands. We're going to try to keep it interactive. All right. Who would prefer to get killed by a robot or by a human being if you had to get, unfortunately, killed by a car? So who would prefer to get killed by a fellow human being? Okay. Who would prefer to get killed by a robot? Okay. Why a robot? Just yell it out at me. Okay, he doesn't know. I mean, this comes to the terrible question, which is, theoretically, a driverless car should save lives, right? But I feel uncomfortable with this idea that a robot kills me. I prefer another human being kill. At least my mother and my wife can yell at somebody and sue somebody. At least it feels I can take out the other guy. I don't want to get killed by Terminator.
It's a good question, but I'd rather not be killed at all, right? A human driver is not consistent, right? It makes mistakes, right?
Yes.
A computer doesn't fall asleep, doesn't get emotional when somebody overtakes it, right?
Yes.
And it's always predictable,
Yes.
always consistent.
Yes.
So that's the advantage.
Yes.
And
That's the
but
promise.
That's
And
the
then the
promise.
guy's watching.
And I would even go further to say that if you'd ridden in our cars, maybe you'll be so worried riding in a taxi that's human driven.
That's true.
Yeah, and
That's
you
true.
would require. On the contrary, safety is the most important reason we're working on driverless
So
cars.
how do you build in safety, like actual specifics when you guys think about this?
Okay, we make sure the sensors really see the things they're supposed to see. If they have to see 100 times a second, it's better be 100 times a second. If it fails, there's redundancy. Yeah, there's a backup. The computer doesn't hang because there's redundancy too. We have what's called a watchdog that looks at the pulse of the computer all the time and does decision making all the time and can react at the guaranteed reaction time. It doesn't fail, rain or shine. Yeah, so it always works. We have redundancy built in. We test it, run it through its software.
So, but the key thing is the judgment. What happens if a computer misjudges something, and then that causes the accident?
Well, that should not happen, right? What do you mean by misjudging? Right? There are many meanings of
Well,
that.
it's the AI, right? You know, it's still a decision.
But it's still a decision, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's still the decision. Whatever it is, it will be a decision that should be better than a human being.
Let me ask you an even worse one, which kind of like a philosophy professor will do.
Yes?
Say you're driving in a car,
Yeah?
and the car loses control.
Yeah?
You know, whatever, the brakes fail.
Yeah, right?
And you're hurtling towards a family of 5.
Yeah?
And there's 5 souls in there, and you're 1. And the AI makes the decision, well, we'll just have to chop you off and kill you because it'll save 5 lives.
Okay.
Would you be happy with that decision? Because
Well, the nice thing about this is, if I'm a human driver, if you were the one there, or I am the one, what will you do? Do you have time enough to think? Maybe not. You just do by instinct, right?
yeah, I think there'll be 6 people who got into an accident, not 5, and then the robot just goes, whew,
yeah,
and then,
whatever it is, right? But if you put the intelligence in it, that's an ethical question, right?
that's an ethical question. Yes.
Which is true. It's
Which
called the
you
trolley
have to
problem.
think about it
Yes.
when you program the machine.
The nice thing is the machine, we can be very objective about it. You put the value of people's lives.
Yes.
How old are they?
Yes.
And how much more lives can they bring? And the obvious answer is 5 is better than 1, right? So kill yourself.
Is that right? Okay, so we've got a real utilitarian
Objective.
here,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Hey,
very
look.
objective.
Look, I got them laughing, right? I think we got you guys laughing. Okay, woo! And then we've got a lot of empty seats, but it's fine. I don't. But this is interesting, right? Here's another interesting question. What happens if that guy who's driving his family of 5, the actual driver,
Yeah, family of 5. Yes.
yeah, and the 5 souls, of course, we're gonna meet the maker because we're gonna go, but he was drunk, or he's an aggressive driver,
Yeah.
and really, he's the guy at fault. By the way, I have a law degree, that's why I'm asking these kind of things. And the computer doesn't know that. The computer just do. I die, and then we go to the case, or rather you die because you're driving the car because you're the experimentalist, right?
Yeah.
And then your family sues him because even though the computer made the right decision about saving 5 souls, he was drunk.
Yeah. Okay, so, but the computer doesn't know that.
The computer doesn't
Know that. Or maybe the computer ought to know that the way he drives, right? But let's say the computer doesn't know that. That's fine. The computer still made the right decision. You can still challenge it. That's where lawyers are for. Right? You
So
dictate
here
it.
comes the ultimate question that I've been setting you up for.
Yes, which is?
So my wonderful government, the Singapore government, we'll never put a driverless car on the road until all of these things have been resolved and, right? You know what I'm talking about. So you're never going to get out of the lab because nobody wants to face this until we've got the answers and there's an infinite variable of these problems and no one's going to do that,
I don't agree with that. They won't wait for that. Let's say I put a very everyday life, your microwave oven in your home.
Yes.
It suddenly explodes while you're using it.
Sure.
You get killed by it. Right? So who's to blame? They have to do an investigation.
Yes.
That happens in everyday things. An airplane crashes.
Absolutely.
A ship malfunctions or something. So there will always be questions.
But may I ask the difference between the microwave and the aeroplane and the driverless car is I don't think we've ever had a machine where we put our discretionary thinking in the hands of a machine. So a plane still gets flown by a pilot, so we can measure it by saying the plane is good or whatever. And same with the microwave, it's, but a car, we're putting our lives in the hands of artificial intelligence.
Right. Well, there are washing machines that are artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but they don't kill people.
Well, not yet. Stupid things might happen, right? Even if you press a button, some process goes on.
Yeah.
And that something may happen there, right?
Okay. So I put you a bit on the spot because I'm sure that your day job is not even to necessarily think about these things because you're still trying to solve the fundamental problem.
Actually, I do think a lot about
But when you
things.
have a couple of beers with the rest of your researchers, you think about that, right?
That's right.
Okay, so then what is your conclusion? You say, I'm just going to build Terminator. I'm just going to build Terminator.
Well, robotics will always have a role to play. It's a big impact. It will never replace human beings, right? It will still work with us.
Famous last words.
Serving as the best tool for us, right?
Okay.
I call it 5 Ds. Before it was 4. Dangerous tasks, degrading, demeaning, and demanding.
That's a venture capitalist.
Yeah? You should not do those tasks.
I'm just kidding.
Those are not fun tasks. Let the robot
That's an
replace you.
entrepreneur.
That's right. And the 5th one, guess what? Driving cars.
Ah.
Okay? So the humans can do much better things with their minds, right? Imagine you're going home with a driverless car. You don't need even a driver seat there, right? You can make it like your private office. You can have a bed, a sofa bed. You can check your email and save 1 hour of time.
I know a lot of Indonesian tycoons in Jakarta who do that already, but they use a driver. I'm absolutely in agreement with you. I think the next question that everybody wants to ask is, how close are we to the Holy Grail?
Yes.
Like, are we going to see literally a driverless car before the end of 2017 in Singapore or in somewhere in the world?
Yes. For pedestrian environments, inside the malls, inside let's say a park like Botanic Gardens, passenger terminal building, let's say from the gate to the immigration baggage claim, right? I can bring my car there and do it tomorrow, right? It's already there. Why? Because in pedestrian environment, the environment is slow. People only moving. The car moves very slowly.
In the worst case, you break a leg or you run over a 2-year-old, something.
Or maybe you just touch the person. You don't run it over, right?
Okay.
You won't even touch it, actually. It will stop. But doesn't mean the person will not touch the vehicle, because if a crazy person runs after an autonomous vehicle, the autonomous vehicle is not intelligent enough to run away very fast, right? Okay, yeah, it's still doing defensive driving. Okay, so, but for cars, in the road environment, other cars move much faster.
At 70 kilometers an hour.
So that one is not quite there yet. That one we're looking at least 5 years.
5 years?
At least. Maybe 10 is more realistic. But for urban driving, right, autonomy has already promised in 2 years' time. 2018, they will have.
Okay, so there's a difference between urban driving and expressway driving.
Right.
Okay, so like a
reaction time,
like a term
faster.
Inside like a small city.
Small city. For example, from here to the nearest train station, right, or from centered around a train station, 3-kilometer radius.
Okay.
Do the last mile, first mile problem.
Okay.
That's certainly within 5 years.
So that's the key. I think the key when I've seen about technologies is that it's always incremental, right?
That's right.
And it feels like there is an incremental path even for driverless vehicles,
That's right.
So you might start with a driverless vehicle, that has 6 buttons, which are 6 different bus stops.
That's
like
right.
the thing, and then if you press that button,
Goes there.
it just goes there. So you don't even
Fixed
have
route.
the it's a fixed route. You don't
Fixed
even
route.
have the UI UX issue.
That's right.
That's a game changer already.
That's right.
When is that coming? 2 years.
Urban environment within 5 years.
Within 5 years. What do they need to do for those 5 years? I mean, what?
To be able to predict
do trials,
to do
and
trials
collect data.
and get data, gain confidence,
Gain confidence.
run it many times like what we're doing in One North now.
Okay.
People illegally park vehicles, for example. There's so many of them, allowing the car to sometimes violate traffic rules.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
yes.
because human driver, if you don't violate traffic rules, you won't move
It's
anywhere.
no fun, yeah.
No, and not only no fun, if there's an illegally parked road in a single lane road, you're not supposed to go in the other direction. There's a double solid white line. You don't wait for the
That's
illegally
very
parked
interesting.
vehicle.
Yeah, you kind of break
cut
the
it
rules,
out.
right?
But can we program our vehicle to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
We
have
don't
a
know.
library that's called rule breaking.
Rule breaking, and what is
Okay.
the amount of rule breaking that we
Okay,
need to do?
that's
right?
very
So
interesting.
that is a question that I don't have the answer yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But maybe we'll just let the vehicle learn by itself by learning how humans do it.
Fascinating. So I'm going to stop you here because I've learned a lot.
Okay.
And
good.
we've
Let's
got
get
3 minutes and 57 seconds. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Or else I'm just going to carry on using my... Yes. Oh.
Okay. Yes.
The question is LiDAR necessary? The thing there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right now it is, yes. It's necessary. The advantage of LiDAR, it gives range information, right? But it's still very, very expensive. But one thing we use that's
How
different-
expensive is it?
For example, the one that
20,000?
Google uses is $80,000 US.
80.
Yeah.
80.
Yeah. But it's going down. The one we use is a 2-dimensional version. It's 7,000 Singapore dollars.
Oh, so Google has a 3-dimensional one.
3-dimensional.
Okay.
Us is a 2-dimensional one. It's good. LiDAR is needed for being more accurate, being able to detect range.
Okay.
Range 270 degrees around.
If you don't use LiDAR, what do you use?
Cameras.
Cameras, okay.
We're working towards using the cheapest cameras.
And it's like 3D stereoscopic image.
It's one camera, but if you have many cameras, you see all views, you make it into the 3D.
Got it.
If we can do some web camera, less than $50, that would be great,
Got
right?
it.
Can put 20 of them all around the
Okay.
vehicle, right?
Got it.
So we're working very hard on that. If vision can replace it, that would be good.
Okay, that's a great question. Any other questions, guys? 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Oh, yes, great. Oh, so
Yeah, that's right.
do the autonomous cars talk to each other, right?
That's a very good question. Vehicle-to-vehicle communications, we do that. We call it cooperative driving, right? Imagine the situation, 2 autonomous cars are going up a slope, a high road, then going down, and this car in front sends the images of what it's seeing to the car behind, so the car behind have a bigger view of the environment and can make better decision making, right?
And
Cooperative
traffic.
and traffic and things like that.
Does that exist now?
We're working towards that. We have demonstrations for that. And also in situations where there's a single lane road and 2 cars have to go, somebody has to go in first, otherwise they face each other, bottleneck. Cooperative driving for that. We have demonstrations for do that. That happened to us in the Chinese and Japanese garden where we were doing a deployment of our vehicles. There's one narrow bridge that separates both gardens. Our 2 vehicles went there. We never anticipated that. So guess what happened? They look at each other, say hi, hi. And
they just stop.
they just stopped, right?
Okay.
So quickly we went back and we have now developed a very nice algorithm. It's not centralized control. It's like looking at 2 of us going, I see how you move, I see how much, then I give way.
Okay, got it. Last question, excellent. What's the difference between the autonomous vehicle here versus what Uber's is, right?
Versus?
Uber's car and autonomous car, what's the difference?
Okay, the autonomous car, it's very hard to answer because I haven't seen the Uber car close and perfect, right? Very close. But our approach, right, which is Nutonomy's approach to, is a minimalist. Minimalist meaning use off-the-shelf computers, something you can easily buy that's low cost, but we approach the same capability, if not better, through software. Right? For example, we use a 2D LiDAR instead of a 3D. Uber, I'm sure, uses 3D. With 2D, if it's moving, a 2D plane moving, you know how it moves, creates a 3D environment, right? And that's how we do it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Round of applause.
Thank you.
I learned a lot.
Thank you. Nice
Hian
meeting
Goh.
you.